Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Just Talking About Sports. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Ethan.
Ethan, what are we going to be doing today?
Just talking about sports.
There we go. We are here with the Week 6 poll in the AP Top 25. We got a lot to discuss this week. Plenty of upsets across the board. We're here to bring you everything, all the big matchups this week, all the big wins, and which teams we think could be on the rise. We'll start at the top with the number one Gonzaga Bulldogs. And let's start here. Gonzaga has just been incredibly dominant. They slaughtered Virginia in their latest big top 25 matchup. Gonzaga continues to impress. Corey Kispert is another big man on that team. You take a look at what Jalen Suggs has already done. Kispert just tied the record, hitting 9 threes in a game, put up 32 in their 23-point win over Virginia. They have scored 95 plus in their last 3 games, granted 2 of them being against Northwestern State. Thoughts and prayers to anybody who goes to that school. And you just take a look. Drew Timm has had a big impact on this team as well. Gonzaga is just so well-rounded that I don't really think you're going to see a team really challenge them the way that Villanova could. I think there's very few teams apart from Villanova, Baylor, Kansas that can even really put up a fight against Gonzaga.
Yeah, I mean, this week's game against Virginia and Gonzaga, I mean, Virginia wasn't even supposed to play Gonzaga because they were supposed to play Villanova, but then a last-minute switch, was good because Villanova got to play, but it was bad because they got embarrassed. Gonzaga is literally like on a whole new level the way that they've been playing in terms of like scoring-wise. They're third in the nation in points per game. They're tied for fourth in assists per game. This team is just unbelievable. Their chemistry and their coaching has just been unbelievable. This Gonzaga team, I don't see them losing for a very, very long time.
I would agree with that statement. They're just so good. And let's continue on with this list as we're kind of trying to keep the motors rolling today. We got number 2 Baylor. Congratulations, you beat Arkansas Pine Bluff. Let's give them a round of applause. Woo! Yeah. So Jayhawks are at number 3. This is a big win for this team over West Virginia. You'll see. We'll talk about it in a second. They slide just a little bit. But Kansas looking incredibly dominant once again. Villanova has paused all activities after Coach Jay Wright tests positive. They move up 1 to number 4, but I do not expect to see them play for the next 2 weeks or so while they continue to potentially recover from a possible outbreak. Houston cracks into the top 5. Long time coming. Should have already happened. Now they are at number 5. Houston continues to cruise. Wisconsin is at number 6. It's Big Ten. Just move along. Tennessee at number 7. We've talked about them already. SEC. They really don't have a lot of competition. We'll see how long it takes them to lose. Texas is at number 8. Again, not a lot of competition in the Big 12. Is not as much as there was before. West Virginia at number 9, we already said, lost to. They already lost to Kansas, and it was not pretty. This is where we're going to take our stand. Number 10, Iowa. What are your thoughts on how this team has performed?
Last week was not a good look for Iowa, as they were looking to finally be able to kind of get back up and rolling again and start off their basically reign over the Big Ten until they hit Minnesota, which for Minnesota's sake, I mean, they were able to hit a last-minute 3-pointer that they're basically, I believe, by Marcus Carr, who came in and just tied the game last minute, like unexpected for Iowa, forced overtime, and then Iowa had nothing going in overtime, and Minnesota able to upset Iowa, and just not a good look for Iowa as they were trying to be able to basically seize control in the Big Ten, continue their reign, and basically it's not a good look as they end up dropping 6 spots. They are still in the top 10, but a game like this is going to definitely hurt on their resume. I mean, for a positive standpoint, Luka Garza is still number 1 in the league in points per game and rebounds per game. The dude is still going off, and basically they're still tied with Gonzaga. They're scoring just as many points as they do every single game, which Iowa still continues to put up numerous amount of points every single game. Just a matter of what teams are going to be able to keep up with them every single week. And this time Minnesota was, and that means, or this week they were able to basically upset them. So what is Iowa's schedule looking like for the next 2 weeks? They have Northwestern and Rutgers this week. So 2 teams that are basically sliding under the radar, and basically they're now in the top 25. So we'll see if Iowa is able to continue it against some of the new and upcoming Big Ten teams.
Agreed. Iowa struggling a little bit now. They don't look like the team they were at the beginning of this season. We'll see how that goes along. We continue on here. A couple of teams before we head to our next discussion. Number 11, Creighton. We talked about the Big East. They need to show that they're a competitor. They lost their first game in the Big East, but they do take down Xavier, who was previously undefeated. Xavier now out of the rankings. Creighton jumps 2. Missouri still undefeated, but again, SEC. Same thing. Tennessee does play Missouri this week. The 2 unbeatens left in the SEC. This is about as good as the competition gets there. Big game coming up this week in Missouri. That is on Wednesday. And then let's head to number 13, Texas Tech. They're in the Big 12 as well. You've got a couple of teams up here, but there's not a lot of depth in the Big 12. You got Texas, you got West Virginia. You don't really see anything else. Texas Tech is known for fighting close. They have not really had that big blowout game. It took them a little while to take down Abilene Christian on December 9th. They barely lose to Kansas. They barely beat Oklahoma. This is exactly the perfect example of what you call a tournament team. Texas Tech literally made the finals by winning close games just a few years ago. Texas Tech knows what's up. They know what they can keep doing, but the issue is, can they get a sufficient set of scoring? That's something they haven't had all year. The team has barely eclipsed 70 in any game this year. Texas Tech is headlined, of course, by former Georgetown player and Georgetown Hoya Mac McClung. He leads the team in points. Now, granted, it's only 15, but Texas Tech is a defensive-oriented team. They rank in the top 5 in defensive efficiency in the league this year. Now, the issue, they have no opponents. Apart from Kansas, apart from the occasional West Virginia matchup, you don't get anybody. You want to take a look at their non-conference schedule. You got Troy, Grambling, State Abilene Christian, Corpus Christi, and now on Tuesday they play Incarnate Word. So this team's not going to get exactly the point. They are not going to get a lot of credit for their non-conference schedule. So they really got to dominate the Big 12, and they do not get off to a good start with the loss to Kansas. This team could sneak under the radar, but they're not going to have a lot of big profile matchups as they head into the tournament. That could not only hinder their seeding, but hinder their performance against some of the better teams in the nation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Mac McClung has been the centerpiece of this entire Texas Tech offense, and they, like as you said, they don't win pretty, but they still end up finding ways to win, and that's how Texas Tech. That's their motto has been for the last few years, and I feel like they're going to be able to continue that. I mean, they have Texas also in that schedule that they end up versing sooner than later, but that's about, I think it's 2 or 3 weeks out. So for now, Texas Tech will continue to keep rolling, and until they start going up against these bigger Big 12 matchups, we'll continue to see them in these top 15 of these rankings.
Agreed. Big 12 conference play, starts here in the first week of January. Main conference play. We've already played against Kansas, but majority of it now starts first week of January. We now head to what I call the Big 10 corner of the rankings. I'm going to let Ethan handle this. Let's start with Rutgers. We literally just talked about this. Their schedule is hell. They struggled immediately.
Yep. It only took one game, and Rutgers has already hit a wall against Ohio State, who's not even one of the top guys in the Big Ten. They lost by 12 points to them. This game was not very close from the start. I mean, Geo Baker could not hit the side of a wall. He only was able to put up 8 points. And Ron Harper Jr., their top scorer, was still able to put up 20 points, but he was on 40% shooting from the field. And I believe he was only 4 from 10 from 3. It was not an amazing game from their 2 top scorers that Rutgers relies heavily on to carry them to their victories. And when those guys don't have good games, Rutgers is obviously not going to also have a good game, and they were going to definitely fall against Ohio State. This week they have Purdue and, like we said earlier, Iowa. So they will once again be tested in their hell of a week. And we'll see if this Rutgers team can continue to be disciplined and be able to put up good fights against these teams, which, I mean, I think Purdue could be sooner than later in the top 25 too if they continue to keep getting wins like they have. But I feel like Rutgers, it's going to be a hard week for them. Will he be able to keep it up with it? If Ron Harper Jr. continues to literally go off like he has been and scoring 20 points per game like he has, they will be able to continue to put up fights. But if you don't have people like him putting up good games, Rutgers will be hitting a wall and they will not be.
I think the implosion is already begun. Yeah, but I agree with you. We'll see what happens with Rutgers. I talked about it last week. I think that their schedule does not favor this team at all. But this is kind of the next big portion of the rankings, and we'll touch quickly on it. Illinois sits at number 15. They have 3 losses. Again, I've told you how much I do not like the fact that they have risen to 15 with 3 losses on their schedule. Granted, they head into the nation. They have so much talent, and their schedule primarily is losses to these top teams. So I'm going to let it slide for now. Michigan's at number 16. They're unbeaten. Yes, we get how last year was different. This year's a whole other thing. They're unbeaten, and they're still too low, in my opinion. But Ethan, I think you disagree.
They have not played anybody. Let's look at their schedule. Like we said, Bowling Green State, Oakland, Ball State, UCF, Toledo, and then their Big Ten conference games so far, unranked Penn State and unranked Nebraska. And then they also have unranked Maryland this week. And then later on, they also do finally get to verse 8, their first ranked matchup. And we'll see if they can really do it against Northwestern, who just got into the top 25. So I feel like this Michigan team has had an easy breezy schedule so far, just basically a cakewalk. And until they finally start versing some guys that are actually in this top 25 and actually are competitive, or at least on the same level as them, or if not better, I feel like Michigan will struggle. But until then, I still have to sit and look and just glare at that yellow M in the top 25.
Wins to me, I told you, mean more than anything. It's the same that goes for college football, as you literally are wearing the Coastal Carolina shirt, which we're not talking about because I'm still frustrated about that. But Michigan, to me, you won games, you haven't lost. You head into a Big Ten conference. Now, granted, you haven't played much in the Big Ten, but it doesn't matter. This is the same story with Rutgers. It's the same story with Illinois. It's the same story with every damn Big Ten team. They're going to have to fight. It's pretty simple. You're in a conference where 9 teams in the Big Ten are ranked, and you got another 2 with votes, and 3 are sitting on the outside crying in a corner, but that's not the discussion here. They're going to need to win, and they're going to need to win big games, and we'll see if Michigan can do it. They haven't beaten anybody yet. We'll see if they do. Now I want to touch quickly on the next one. Michigan State sits at number 17. They've fallen 13 spots in 14 days. 2 ugly losses to Big Ten opponents. We thought, oh, Michigan State rules the Big Ten. No, they're the team that needs to survive the Big Ten. They get absolutely whacked by Northwestern, and then they do not put up much of a fight against Wisconsin either. And Michigan State is starting to show us, oh, man, this is not the same team that they had before. See if they bounce back. Big Ten schedule does have some nice little grooves in the road. We'll take a look now at number 18, Florida State, ACC. This is not the same ACC we've seen in recent years. Not a difficult game. Northwestern sits at number 19, and this is where we will discuss next. The Wildcats are on fire right now. They just continue to cruise behind some excellent play from the Wildcats and just unbelievable play overall by Boo Buie. This kid continues to just dominate across the entire league. Michigan State, they cruised against him. Miller Kopp scores 23. They're forward in Northwestern. He helped them take down Ohio State. They beat Indiana. We've talked about them. They're a Big Ten team with plenty of potential. But this is where the test is. They now play tomorrow against Iowa in their biggest game of the season. Will they survive the biggest challenges of the Big Ten? They've already taken down 2 pretty solid teams there. But can they take down Iowa as well? This is the big challenge, Ethan. Can they get it done?
I think they'll definitely be able to put up a fight. I mean, Northwestern has been able to win games, but will they be able to keep up with the 95 points per game, or like however many, like they are scoring so many points per game Iowa has. I think they're at least top 3, I believe, is what they are. But will they be able to keep up with them? I don't know, because I mean, they've only scored 2 times over 100 points, and those were against a D2 school in Quincy and Chicago State, who is, as we know, because we're from Illinois, not very good at basketball. So I feel like Northwestern will be able to put up a fight and kind of be able to do it. But will they have an answer for Luka Garza? I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think they're definitely going to be – it's going to be a fight. Personally, I think they're going to struggle against them, and we'll see. But if Northwestern is the real deal and they're able to knock off Iowa, that'd be pretty much their statement win of the season. And they'll definitely keep that, and we'll see them skyrocket in the rankings. Absolutely. So,
would agree. And now we take. Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
You can go. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Northwestern. This is their first of 5 consecutive games against Week 6 ranked opponents. So let's see where they stand. You got to think they got to win at least 4 of those in order to really prove anything here. But the Big Ten is going to start losing games. Me and you both know that, and so we'll see what the highest Big Ten team is here in a couple weeks, because that's going to be the storyline. All right, we'll head to number 20, Duke. Okay, I mean, you haven't played anybody now in weeks. Let's see you actually play a team. 20, no, seriously, just a team. 21, Oregon. These are your Ducks, even though you go to Butler. Oregon is interesting. I don't know what to believe in them. I don't think you do either. We'll see. Oregon's kind of back and forth in a Pac-12 conference that really, really has lost its grip. Then they're tied with the team that we got to discuss a little bit. It's Minnesota. I mean, they dominated Iowa in some of the biggest ways possible in late game situations. But really, if you watch that full game, they dominated across the whole board.
Yes. Minnesota came out of, like, I didn't expect them. I knew they were kind of good, and I knew they were like, they only had like 1 loss, which I believe was at the start of the season to, I'm pulling it up real quick. It was actually, their 1 loss comes against Minnesota or Illinois, which wasn't a pretty loss because they almost lost by 30, but they were able to respond and go beat St. Louis University, the SLU, who were supposed to make the rankings until they lost to Minnesota. And then they go out and Marcus Carr goes off for them and they beat Iowa. And then they go out and they say, we're not, or basically they have this week, they have Michigan State and Wisconsin, which that is a hefty week for them, as I think they have to play them Michigan State tonight, and then they have Wisconsin on Wednesday. So holy moly, it's going to be a rough stretch for them here, but this is where we're going to be able to see if the Golden Gophers are the real deal, and if they are, was it just a fluke game against them or against Iowa, or will they be able to continue? But I think with Marcus Carr, who's pretty much averaging 24.6 points per game, which is actually 3rd, I believe, in the nation. So, and for him being on that list is looking really, really good for this Minnesota Gophers team that didn't really have many expectations coming into the season. And to have them now 8-1 and now 1-1 in the Big Ten with a win against a Iowa team that was supposed to be the kings of the Big Ten. They're looking really good, and we'll see if they can continue it, as it's their first time in the top 25. So welcome to the top 25.
Marcus Carr drawing comparisons to Jarrett Culver, 2018 Texas Tech team that we had previously discussed just a second ago. They made it all the way to the championship. He's kind of that guy who can pretty much do it all. We'll see how Minnesota continues to continue on here. Let's finish up the top 25 with a couple of teams here. You got the Virginias at 23 and 24. Cavaliers sit at 23 after getting absolutely wrecked by Gonzaga. It's not really their fault. It's just Gonzaga. So thoughts and prayers with you. 24, Virginia Tech. I do not believe they played anybody this week, if I'm correct. Nope, their last win was against Longwood. Congratulations. The Lancers. Yeah, but Virginia Tech doesn't move. They didn't play. Makes sense. Ohio State saves themselves by falling from a free fall by taking down Northwestern, but they beat Rutgers. They lost to Northwestern, but they take it back by beating Rutgers. A couple of teams sitting just outside. Xavier just lost their first game. San Diego State, not talking about it, still frustrated. North Carolina falls out after a loss to the Wolfpack. And then a couple of other teams that are starting to still with unbeaten records. Drake Chattanooga, 10-0 and 9-0, sitting at the bottom of the rankings. Final thoughts, Ethan?
I think the rankings are looking all right so far. There's a lot of Big Ten teams. There's 9 of them, I believe, in the top 25, which is a lot to say the least. But we'll see if these Big Ten teams are able to stay in the top 25, as all of them are now beginning to start versing each other, which means all these ranked teams are going to be going up against each other. And the more these teams lose, the more we'll see the big picture of who's an imposter and who's the real deal. So till then, I think these top 25 rankings are looking good. Chattanooga should get a few more votes, but we'll keep moving on from there.
Yeah, agreed. I always like to throw in those teams at the bottom because, they're not the teams that are going to be in the top 25, but they're like when come March, they're your 11s, 12s, and 13s that you got to put those on pen and paper. All right. That's going to do it. We appreciate you guys once again watching this week. Obviously, this is probably our final video here of 2020. We appreciate all of you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already. And everybody have a great, great week.
See ya.